Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you Dindin TV for hosting. My name is Ken Z. I'm a tech investor based in Silicon Valley. I'm also CEO of a company called Traction that's backed by NEA. So I want to introduce Sam. Everyone give a round of applause for Sam, please. So Sam had already taken a company public before, CalSoft, and now he's the CEO of MedGenome. So let's start by asking questions about MedGenome a little bit. So how did you start to transition from a different software kind of company into medical science, life science, MedGenome? How did that start?
Yeah, it started in the mid-2000 when I saw the first whole genome being sequenced, and that was a big eye-opener that we are getting access to what is the source code of life. Right, so that I felt was like a turning point for our species, in fact. So I felt that that's the right time to take advantage of another revolution that will be coming up soon. So I decided to get into genomics, leveraging the DNA sequencing technologies, which are typically called NGS, next generation sequencing.
Got it. Is that a personal passion in some way that you read something and around that time period? Is that how it happened, or?
Yeah, exactly. I always like science. So, right. I was keeping track of what is going on, and I felt like this was the biggest scientific breakthrough, maybe ever, being able to get access to the language of life.
Gotcha. And how has the journey been so far in MedGenome?
Journey has been fantastic, so I spun off MedGenome from my first company that is called Genome, Science of the Genome. That was the first company I started when I got into the genomic space. That was in 2009. Then I felt that the NGS technologies can be really leveraged in the healthcare industry. So MedGenome was started first as a division of Genome in 2011. Then I spun off MedGenome in 2013 as a separate company. When I was sort of clear about the revenue model, we were able to get revenue from two streams. One was from diagnostic services in India. So this mainly I wanted to make an India play, though I have been based here in the last 25 years in the Silicon Valley. I was very passionate about trying to do something back in India. And I felt that this new technologies and being able to do genomics in India was a great thing. And so the first set of services from clinical diagnostics, providing diagnostic tests to patients, not the recreational genomics or the ancestry, not things like that, but when people are really sick, cancer and inherited diseases. The second part of our services is research services. That is actually a bigger chunk of the revenue. That comes from pharmaceutical companies here in the US and globally. The Indian population turns out to be a fantastic place for doing genetic research.
Can you tell us more about why? Why so India is a special place for this?
Yeah, so it is very coincidental, but about a few thousand years back, maybe I would say about 2,000 or 3,000 years back, the people in India somehow broke up into groups and they made up what is called the caste system. So the religions, mainly Hinduism, had evolved a very peculiar system as the caste system. And then they segregated into these groups, and that caste system became very rigid, so they wouldn't intermarry. So there are examples outside the world, like the Ashkenazi Jews are an example, the Amish, but those are small groups and only a few. In India we have like maybe about 4,500 population groups which segregated a few thousand years back. Secondly, they then took up some very strange practices, in the sense that not only would they breed only within the community, they would marry very close relatives continuously across generations. So first cousins marrying, maybe many generations, even the uncle marrying the niece. This all became very standard practices in these communities. This created a big problem on one side, because a lot of genetic diseases, the burden of genetic diseases in India is maybe double that of the Caucasian population. Secondly, the good side of it was that it became the largest genetic experiment we have ever done as a species. So these groups are very good to study diseases because they are so closely related. The genome is very complex. So typically if you take two persons and sequence the genomes, there will be like maybe 4 million data points different. So you don't know which are harmful, what is causing a disease, and frankly even now we know very little about the genes. So more than half the genes we don't even know what they do. So science is still a lot to learn. So this population becomes a good place to do that learning. So what we call understand the biology of disease. So that is very practical to do in India, and the findings are applicable for everybody. So it is not that you are doing some findings which will be applicable only to Indians.
That's so fascinating, by the way. I'm also very curious, as you talked about some of the revenue model, right now there's a couple of revenue streams. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? And also talk a little bit more about long-term wise, how would that change?
Yeah, so typically we wanted to really get the data, in the long run MedGenome will become like a data play, accumulating, collecting the data from the Indian population, and not just genetic data, the genetic data along with the phenotype data and the clinical data. So all these three together will be a great database. So finally that is a goal. But if you do by a typical approach in the Silicon Valley, then you have to go and raise maybe $100 or $200 million and go for like a 5-year, 10-year play. So that was, I felt, more risky, older, gray hair. So we felt that let us develop the revenue models and then bootstrap it and build it up. So we built it up with these two services, and then once I could see the visibility of the revenue, then went out and raised money.
Right.
And then now continue to build it up through these services, but the services are basically enablers. We don't really see ourselves being a service provider maybe 5 years down the line. So in about 4 to 5 years using these services, we would have built up enough data so we can maybe morph into a platform play and provide the data and be the platform for other people to come into the platform and maybe generate data, license data, and become a data powerhouse.
Got it. And this is actually a perfect segue to parlay into the recent funding that you did. And I think everybody here probably looked up already. It's very impressive. You've raised a $20 million round led by Tier 1 Sequoia, capital. So can you tell us a little bit more about, some of the backstory here, inside story that's, not online?
Yeah, I mean, it happened very fast. So typically I have seen in my earlier life too, funding takes a long time. Most of you must have seen that. But maybe the path that we chose and the fact that we were in the right place at the right time and the unique model that we had developed, we were able to, I got a term sheet in 2 weeks. So getting a term sheet from Sequoia in 2 weeks was like amazing. Thank you. And in fact, we did have other investors willing to give term sheets and even at a higher valuation. But I felt, how can you go wrong with Sequoia?
Got it. So there's a fit, a partner that you like, right?
Yeah,
so you just went with it.
Yeah, they understand the model, they're with you for the long run, right? And they give us a good valuation. So all those things matter.
Got it. So, compared to the last company that you did, that you took public, right? That's quite an achievement, over 1,000 employees. To this current one, which you also have done incredible things. It's also a very personally gratifying experience, into this life science, completely different business. How would you compare these two?
Oh, they're very different. The software was interesting, in fact. I mean, I loved software. But after 10, 15 years, it started getting a little boring. And the impact, I mean, it's not as dramatic as the impact that you're able to make in life sciences. And so I feel, though it's what I call a second innings in my journey, I find more excitement here. And the growth, fortunately, has been faster too. So maybe that has helped. But definitely the learning that happens every day, the new things that are being discovered, and the fact that we are in a cutting edge place and doing something that will affect all of us positively is very gratifying.
Totally. Last time around, you had already done a very cross-border, multiple offices kind of setup. And this time around, you also have offices in India and also here, cross borders. Can you tell us a little bit more about how do you tackle, challenges that arise from a multi-country type of office setup?
Yeah, it is frankly not as challenging as it was maybe 10 or 20 years back. I mean, all of us, is a good example of the multicultural, growth that the whole globalization has seen. So at the same time, there are challenges. The basic things of time zone. You work in many different time zones, different cultures. But I feel that we are sort of blessed to be here in the Silicon Valley, and we sort of in all the companies that I have been involved in, we sort of use the practices here as a base, so that the culture is set from the most fair practices that I have seen anywhere in the world. And in my previous stint, I had operations in 8 countries, and so compared to that, now it's a little more easier in just 2 to 3 countries, and much more advanced technologies helping you communicate. At the same time, a lot of travel is needed. When you have multiple offices, video conferences only go to a particular level, You have to have face time with employees, face time with other colleagues and collaborators. So there's a lot of travel. So I spend 1 month here and 1 month in India.
You pile up a mileage. There you go. Well, I also heard that this is also not on the books, but you just opened up a data center in Singapore. Is that right? What's the rationale there?
So in the next level of growth, like I was explaining earlier, when we really want to get into a data play and move into a data play, we are not restricting just to India. So though I talked a lot about the Indian population, it is not that it is only these differences in the Indian population. I find actually Indonesia even more fascinating, because there it was not the caste system, but there it was islands. So it's a country with 18,000 islands, right? And in many of those islands there are people living, and people will be living for maybe 20,000 years or 10,000 years and so on, and not going out at all. So they also created similar genetic experiments in a way. So Indian data, Indonesia, then there are many other countries across Asia which have hardly been represented in all the global research efforts so far. So one of our initiatives recently, last year actually, was been to start a non-profit consortium also based in Singapore. This is called Genome Asia 100K, and the plan is to sequence 100,000 genomes from Asians. So if you look at the genomic data available in the public now, about 95% is Caucasian, and that too maybe North European, right? So about 5% represents the other half.
That's great. Then I can find out about myself too. There
Absolutely.
You go. Totally.
So the only way we can get to precision medicine is to have enough baseline data.
Totally.
So we create that, and so coming back to your question, so Singapore looked good because India has its strengths, but still not accepted really as a powerhouse in data and IP and all that in that part of the world. So storing the data and keeping that in a neutral place, and also having a powerful supercomputing facility, the facilities were more available in Singapore.
Totally.
So we are keeping the data play based from Singapore, and we also have set up a lab there. So we have actually 3 labs.
Yeah, and also it's a very modern, probably the most modern place in Asia you can find. It's a good hub. Right? It's a very good hub to
Absolutely.
go anywhere else in Asia.
Absolutely.
You got fresh funding. You got a great team. How many people now so far?
About 300.
Right. So that's fantastic. You got fresh funding now. What's next? What's the next couple years for MedGenome?
So we need to now grow we have reached profitability. So the company has crossed a level, and we are clear about the business model. But now to scale up, right? So scale up in 2 ways. One, the 2 revenue streams that we have needs to be built up. Unfortunately, there are 2 different revenue models, because one is like diagnostics, which is more like a retail sale, and the research projects are more of a wholesale sale when you sell to large companies. But fortunately, they all use the same genomics, in the sense that the same population. Secondly, the infrastructure is the same. So we have done that investment for that part. But now we need to scale up and not just wait for the natural growth of data. One effort is through the Genome Asia when we generate data, but we need to have many other research projects on our own. So later in the year, we will most probably look for another round of funding and help us scale into 100 million revenue. That is my immediate target. So at 100 million revenue, I think our company get a valuation of over $1 billion. So sort of get the unicorn status.
Got it. And would this be done in 2 weeks again?
Not true. I think every round bet's a little more difficult, especially the valuation goes up. People are also concerned, genuinely concerned about how you will scale. Right. So scaling is very different from the initial growth, and so people will want more, to understand more about it. And also it's a complex business that we are in. So it's not like as straightforward as doing something in software and something that you can, or e-commerce. Those are the things which even in India now are of high demand. While this it takes a little while to understand, and so also that we are pioneers. Nobody else has really come up with a model like the way we have. So in a way that is good, but in another way that means you have a lot to prove on how would you scale.
Yeah, totally. Speaking of that, so what would you give entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley as advice, for them to expand globally, build a global practice?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Silicon Valley is, as you all know, is the best place to be in, to start your business and then even take it out globally. I mean, if you are moving back to your own country, I mean, assuming that you came to this country only in the first generation, it's not that difficult to go back to your home country, because you would be familiar with the systems there, and you would have the connections and the network. But if you are looking to go into other countries, it becomes much more challenging, and you can get burnt at places where you don't know the local dynamics, and things can come and bite you back, because doing business in China is different, in Japan. I've been there all places and built up companies there, and I always felt that or learned the hard way, the best thing is to find a local partner who is based there but has been here and worked in the Silicon Valley maybe for at least 10 years, 5 to 10 years if they have been here, and then they have moved back to some whatever reason, and they have established there. Tying up with them, you talk the same language then, because the IP, the data privacy, all that things which are taken for granted here in the Silicon Valley may not be accepted that way in other places. So if the people that you're working with are familiar with that, and you're talking the same language, you're the same wavelength, it becomes easier. Still it is always tough. So I would say that people primarily should be more careful when they go outside, but if you really decide and you see an opportunity there, then it should be done carefully.
Got it. So very important to have local partners. Any secret on finding these local partners, outside of students, and you said workers, or any secrets on finding these key people?
Hey, we are all in LinkedIn now, right?
So LinkedIn, there you go. Great.
Finding people has become more easy, and especially if you go to conferences, many programs, and use your network, it has become much easier than maybe how it was 20 years back.
It's fantastic hearing that. This time around, the second time around, it's a lot easier. It seems like you've accomplished things a lot faster. I want to open this up to the floor now, and have some audience, pick Sam's brain, ask some questions here. So we'll just hand it over to you guys. Anyone that has any questions? Anyone questions so far for Sam?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that you're profitable right now. If I may have misheard it, but I heard that you're profitable.
Yes.
What were the critical things that made you profitable? Was it your business model? Was it the type of customers you got? Was it any advice on that front?
No, the fact that we became profitable was not an accident. So I was very particular that I would build up my company without burning money. So the capital that we raise would be mainly used only for infrastructure, for equipments, and the capital expenses. So that is why I took the path of initially having it as a division in my first company. So that those effort is not fully seen right away. But I took about 2 years to grow the initial revenue, the first 2-3 few customers, and understanding the model well. Then when I spun off, I was clear that I can get this pretty quickly to profitability. So at that stage only I decided to spin off. So the first stage I just used my own funds. So that is a model. I thought this was my second inning. So I had some money of my own. I had got out of the IT industry. So I could play this game a little more carefully and the way I wanted.
Next question.
Hi, I'm Harrison Rose with Telepresence Robotics Corporation. Thank you very much. This is a wonderful talk. As we all know, startups go through ups and downs, and as startup founders, we always have to deal with these downs and turn them into ups. Can you tell us any stories about the second company that you got to a point where you were thinking about throwing the towel in, and then you changed and made it go forward?
No, I'm sort of sorry to disappoint you, but somehow in the second this game, we didn't make any mistakes yet. But I had a lot of them in my first innings.
Okay, well, let's talk about the first one then.
Yeah. So the first innings was about 20 years in the IT industry, and innumerable mistakes, right? So for example, Kenzie mentioned about taking a IPO, but that sounds good, but I did it wrong because I did it very early. So you never should take a company public when the company is still small and immature, right? So the financial model that comes out of it does not match your business model. Your businesses go up and down, and the financial markets and the public don't appreciate that, when the company's revenue swings too much. Also, I was always a technology guy, so I made many other mistakes in the business, right? In the mid 90s or late 90s, many of you would be familiar with, there was a lot of opportunities in the software industry with the Y2K, supposedly the Y2K problem. Most of the Indian companies really took advantage of that. Unfortunately, me and my team, we were so fascinated with technology, we would be working on the operating system or device drivers and working with on technologies like that, and we would sneer at oh, COBOL programming, and who would want to do that, right? But then we missed that complete bus, because not only were those projects very important for companies to build up, they got the contacts and access to all the large companies here in the US, right? Many banks and insurance companies, all those systems became very familiar to Indian programmers. So when after the 2000, when the dot-com boom, I mean, there's a bust, but still the whole industry grew. These companies were able to really get into these large accounts much more faster than I could. So so there were so many ups and downs and mistakes that you do.
We have some time for just a few more questions here. So,
Yep.
Hi, my name is Aparna, and I have a question about the global nature of your businesses. So, are your business models transplantable across different countries, or how do you manage the issues with revenues from one country versus another country, and how does it totally add up to how you define if your business is profitable?
Yeah, I mean, typically in this type of companies, we structure in such a way that whatever you see as your primary place, you have the holding company. So for us, because of Sequoia, many of our investors, we have US as our primary holding company. So the Singapore company and the Indian company are subsidiaries of this company. So whenever you talk of numbers, you are consolidating all the numbers to the holding company. So each company in the country that they are in will definitely have their financial statements which cover that part of the business, and you will have to pay the tax or whatever things that you need to go through, which is applicable to that country. But since these countries all have inter-country agreements, there is no double taxation and things like that. So you can consolidate and then you present it from the holding company.
great question, by the way. Love the globalization question. So, next.
Hi, I'm Shrish. I have a question on, for MedGenome, was there a need, or is there a need, or is there some active participation of government and academic institutions?
Very little from the government, but definitely a lot of participation from academic institutions, both in India and here in the US. So academic institutions, are always in the cutting edge of research. And getting access to Indian samples and doing research in India has traditionally been very difficult. So we being there, and not only being there, having a full-fledged lab, we are one of the biggest labs in that part of the world. Even Singapore does not have a lab as big as ours. So we have the Illumina platforms, the X10 that's now called for whole genome sequencing. So we can do hundreds of genomes, whole genomes a month. And if there are tests, we can do even much more larger number, because you don't look at the whole genome.
So there is a value for the academic institutions also?
Absolutely. I would say about 20% of our revenue would be coming from academic institutions.
Oh, okay.
Next question. There you go.
Hi, Sam. My name is Sunil, and I actually have a two-part question. The first one is, do you happen to have a background in medical sciences? Because you've been talking about software. The second part of the question is, I assume that this is still fairly new, and you would need people that have real experience and knowledge in this field. Did you have a problem trying to find those people, either in India or in the US, to staff your organization?
Yeah. So I don't have any background in medical sciences. I had not studied biology after my 10th grade. So because I went into engineering and into computer science and all that. But in a way it was a blessing too, because I could see, I feel things from a little more from the higher level, the picture which maybe even biologists miss, because they didn't seem that excited about getting the source code, while I felt a lot more excitement in getting that. So what was the second part of your question?
In terms of staffing.
Staffing, yeah, staffing. Fortunately, was not very difficult, because again from India there's a lot of Indians in the US, especially in the fields of biology and other sciences. So I could get many people to move back. So my first team was of both wet lab and the dry lab, which is the bioinformatics. We could get very good people who are more than happy to come back to India. And the Indian scenario has also changed, so it is not like 20 years back you go back to India, right? Now going back to India, India is a growing economy and many people are happy to be in India. So a lot of people coming back. And then the cutting edge talent is not there in India, but the ground level talent is there. So using these people, then we have training programs to train up. And the industry has not become competitive like the IT industry. So the salaries are much lower, a lot of people are available. So it has not been much of a challenge in training and building up the team.
Well, it's great to have you here. We're out of time. So thank you everyone for attending. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.